It's no longer the NFC least. Can't say that. I mean, we had the Eagles win the Super Bowl. They were in the NFC Championship game against the Commanders. And the NFC East has just a meat grinder this year. The hardest strength of schedule belonging to the Giants. And all 4 teams are in the top 8 toughest schedules for next season when you go on last season's winning percentage. Chris Hassel, Amanda Guerra, Kyle Long, and Leger Douzable will have Mackenzie Brooks join us with a Sportsline angle on the NFC East schedule in just a second. Let's start with the Eagles, who you saw the list. They don't have the toughest schedule in terms of winning percentage, but first team in NFL history, Leger, that plays 10 playoff teams from the year before.
And I believe 7 on the road. But this is a team that's built to play the upper echelons of the NFL. Now, the biggest question, obviously, they lose their offensive coordinator. He goes to the Saints to become the head coach. Kevin Patula now is the offensive coordinator, and we saw kind of a lull 2 years ago when they lost both coordinators. They really struggled that 23 season, but they still played well enough, Kyle, to get into the playoffs. Yes, people keep talking about all the defensive players they lost, but the one thing Howie Roseman does a really good job of is getting first and second round picks a redshirt year. Guys are able to step into their own in their second year. We saw that with N'Kobe Dean. We saw that with Jordan Davis. A guy like Jalix Hunt was real big in the Super Bowl. Didn't play majority of his rookie year, but he stepped up big when they needed him to. So you'll see a lot of these young players step up and become starters because you see it right there how many players they lost. Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Milton Williams. But they have guys that have had redshirt years that have played in spot start duty to come in and fill the void. The offense only loses one player, Kyle. Mekhi Becton at guard, and we know that they have the best offensive line coach in the league, so they'll be fine there. So even though, to Hass's point, 10 teams from last year that made the playoff are on the Eagles' schedule, they'll be fine because they're built for this.
Yeah, they're built for it, and they're dominant at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Really, that's the recipe that ends up making people like Patrick Mahomes look human. Get after him as a quarterback, and then obviously protect your own. And for Jalen Hurts in particular, I think he will take the biggest leap in this coming season because he got to the top of the mountain. He was the last one standing. And I've never been there, but I would imagine it breeds a certain kind of confidence. And Jalen Hurts, we're going to see that the entirety of the season from him. I can't wait to watch big number 1 get after it all year.
They don't have back-to-back home games at all, but you guys still have them winning the most games in this division. Leger, what's your record?
Yeah, I have them going 12-5 just because championship pedigree. They've been put to the test. We saw it last year. Going into the bye, they were 2-2, Kyle. A lot of people were asking to fire their head coach who had just went to the Super Bowl 2 years prior to that.
I was yelling at him.
That was insane to me. Like, how can you ask to fire Nick Sirianni when he just took you to the Super Bowl 2 years ago? So this is a team that has a lot of different personalities, and you know this, Kyle. You've been in locker rooms. It's tough for a head coach to get all those personalities on one page for a common goal, and they were able to do that and get to a Super Bowl. So when I say this team is well-versed and well-tested, they'll be ready for the schedule.
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about Nick Sirianni because there's only a handful of coaches that have had the success that Nick Sirianni's had. You know, you got to press pause to take a look at those numbers and the facts that are in front of us. But Nick Sirianni's great, and I think the thing that guys respect the most about Nick Sirianni, he is himself. Yeah. He is not fake. There's not an ounce of fake in that dude. And yeah, it pisses some people off like myself. I get ticked off by Nick Sirianni sometimes, but he goes out there and he wins. His team plays hard for him, and that's why I got them going not 12-5, 13-4. This
13 piece extra crispy.
Wow.
I mean, I know we got holes on that defense, but like you said, Howie Roseman's got them filled in. He's got people ready.
Fine.
So when they face the Commanders twice, we're going to talk about the Commanders. Are any of those a W for the Commanders?
We'll have to see.
Okay, all right. So the Commanders out of the NFC East do have the easiest schedule out of these 4 teams, if you consider it that. They are ranked 8th overall. And I will say the fans, at least, they're excited. I was reading an article. They said no more 1 p.m. games. They get to be on Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. But they got to face teams like the Eagles twice.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And they have the benefit of having a young superstar in Jaden Daniels. And the one thing that the Commanders are up against this year are expectations. And when you have gone that far with a rookie quarterback, with a team that was punching up, Dan Quinn instilling a new culture with guys that we're getting to know as the season goes along on the defensive side of the ball, people say, well, we have to get better than that next year, right? This is the next iteration. So I would say pump the brakes and understand that last year was a magic ride. And if you're anywhere near that as a Commander fan this year, you should be thrilled because the next decade decade plus with Jaden Daniels is going to be awesome.
As long as they got JD5, they have a fighting chance. You saw nobody was more clutch in in-game situations than Jaden Daniels. And you talked about it, Kyle. Like, what he did was out of this world as a rookie quarterback. I liken it to the Houston Texans the year before and the Packers, right? High expectations. What are you going to do now that everybody knows you're coming? That is going to be the question mark for the Commanders as they try to dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles. You see how many players they've added. Debo Samuel via trade, Lermy Tunsil via trade. They added Javon Kinlaw, Dedrick Wise. So they've gotten significantly better, and I love what they really did in the draft, getting Josh Connerly, who's going to be able to start either at right tackle, at guard, and Trey Amos, who went in the second round but was really a first-round corner. He's going to allow them to slide Mikey Standerstill back at slot position, which is best position. So I think this is a team that's going to push the Eagles. I don't have them dethroning them this year, though.
11-6 for Leger and for Kyle. You mentioned the Texans and C.J. Stroud. And I got to think that's the worry. Like, how do we avoid that year two? Look, the Texans were still good.
Stroud was still good.
That's when I'm going next.
Okay.
But when you expect to be even better, how do they avoid doing that?
I think you have to stay the course and keep your head down and work, right? C.J. Stroud even came out and admitted this. He felt like he was maybe doing a little bit too much in the offseason. We haven't really seen Jaden Daniels out there in the news. Now, I believe he did a little bit of F1, but I mean, you're an NFL player. You got to blow some steam off, right? You got to have some fun, but just to look in this kid's eye, and you see it right there when you talk about all-time rookie ranks. First in wins, first in total touchdowns, first in total yards. When you talk about the regular season and postseason, he's just built different. And I hear you, Has. We were saying the same thing about C.J. Stroud. But I think the biggest issue with the Texans was they struggled with the offensive line. And it doesn't matter if you're a young guy or a veteran guy. If you don't have help in the trenches protecting you, you're going to get skittish. That's why I love that they took Josh Connerly in the first round to really solidify that offensive line. Go get Lermy Tunsil. That way he knows his backside is protected.
Took it from C.J. Stroud.
Literally. So you make C.J. Stroud weaker and you make Jaden Daniels stronger.
Josh Connerly, a guy who can step in multiple positions, tough player, played a lot of football. Obviously, Lermy Tunsil is going to be protecting the blind side. And I often talk about the right side of the offensive line being the one that the quarterback is more conscious of. Duh, a right-handed quarterback is looking at the right guard and the right tackle.
Correct.
But if the left tackle is getting beat, that's where turnovers happen. That's where sacks happen. That's when quarterbacks can get hurt. And for a guy like Jaden Daniels, you need him on the field. Lermy Tunsil's great. That's why the Texans struggled. They weren't on the same page with coordinator and quarterback and protection plan.
For sure.
They have that as a priority in Washington. Jaden Daniels is going to be dangerous.
We got to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and this was going to be Chris's topic, and I actually asked to take it from him.
She took it from him.
Because I was walking into work, and I got hot. I saw another network talking about can the Cowboys
You were
win
watching
the
another
NFC?
network?
I saw it on we have lots of TV.
Straight to
Hold on, so what, I know you're an Eagles fan, but you're from the Texans.
I am from
so
Dallas.
Are you a Dallas fan too, or no? Like, how does that work?
I get very annoyed with the team, and I get very annoyed with Jerry Jones. Because, and I feel like Kyle's going to back me up, because not really much has changed with this team. They have a hard schedule, yes. We give them all the holidays. They get Christmas. they get Thanksgiving.
They're America's team. They rate
all the primetime games.
I get it's America's team, but Kyle, by the time we get to that point, are we even going to be excited about watching this team?
Well, I'm glad for Dallas Cowboys fans' sake that they put them in primetime week 1, because everybody and their mama is going to be watching the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Nice.
But they don't want to waste the potential of having that Cowboys fan base be out to sea in week 10 when they're, 2 and 8. So
so here's the thing: you guys are on very opposite sides
Get
of
the
their
fandom
schedule.
of the Cowboys while it's hot. Get them early and often in prime time. I know you and I have different records for this team. I think the Dallas Cowboys have a very young base in the offensive line. The core of that offensive line is young. I love what they did in the draft there at the guard position. But it's going to take another year for that group to gel. It's going to take another year for Coach Schottenheimer to be able to command the respect. And to be quite honest, you're bringing George Pickens into the fold. What's going to happen with George Pickens? It wasn't tremendous at all times in Pittsburgh. Who's to say that a big-time city like Dallas lends itself to having George Pickens show up on time in rhythm with his teammates every day?
Yeah, Kyle, I do have this as the third team in the NFC East. And to Chris's point, you can't say the NFC least anymore. This is one of the most competitive divisions in football. I actually got them going 9-8. I think they're going to be a lot better than people expect them to be. Yes, they have a gauntlet of a schedule, but let's not forget, just 2 years ago, Dakota Prescott, Dak Prescott was number 2 in the MVP race. Like, people forget that because he got hurt last year. Just 2 years ago, he was number 2 in the MVP race. And a lot of people thought he should have won it over Lamar Jackson. So he's motivated. I've seen film of him. He looks a lot slender, looks like he's more in shape. George Pickens, contract year. You know how it is when you go somewhere on your contract year. You're highly motivated. You want to get paid. A lot of people view him as a high-end 2, maybe even around 15 to 17 top receiver in the NFL. CeeDee Lamb has proven he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Now, Jerry Jones does have some business to do with Michael Parsons. That needs to be done because he is the best player on that team, and you don't want him going into the season without a contract being locked in. But I believe the Cowboys will be better. The biggest question will be that young offensive line. Can they gel? Tyler Booker is going to bring some nastiness to the offensive line. You got Tyler Guyton there as well. You got T. Smith. Like, they have the pieces. They just have to develop and gel and win through the trenches. Because I thought they had a home run draft. I believe this team is going to be a lot better than people think.
A lot bone than Kyle thinks. He has them at 5-12. Wow.
I think they have the potential.
No, that was your boy DK.
I think they have the young talent. They have young talent on the roster that tells me they could be a team that could be 12-5 in the next year, though. 5-12. I'm being tough on Cowboys fans. I'd love to see them in my mentions. I look forward to seeing them.
They'll be there
in 12 months.
5-12. You have the Giants, Kyle, having a significantly better season than the Cowboys.
Hardest schedule in the NFL.
Yeah, with the hardest schedule. Yeah. How's that?
They got a ton of quarterbacks up there in New York.
Yeah, they got 4 quarterbacks.
If you got 3 quarterbacks, you got 9.
The Giants will have one of the most dominant defensive fronts in football.
They will.
And they made great moves on the back end this offseason, bringing in some real big-time playmakers. And they've got absolute monsters on the interior of that defensive line. I can't wait to watch the Eagles and the Giants play because that's football hog heaven right there. Outside of that, I will say that I do think that the Giants will have a better season than the Cowboys. I trust in that staff more than I know about the Cowboys' current staff.
Who the hell is going to play quarterback?
That's where I'm starting this conversation.
You
think it's going to be
I love Jackson Dart. I've loved Jackson Dart since the first time I saw him swing a golf club. I said, that's a guy that's got reckless abandon. Okay? That's a guy with club head speed. He runs the football. Yep. He wants to hit people like Josh Allen in space. The coach has got to say, whoa, rather than sick him. That's what you want with a rookie. I love that about Jackson Dart, and I think he's cut out for that big city.
I talked to their GM at the league owners meeting, and the plan, not the league owners meeting, literally 2 days after the draft, and he said the plan is not to play Jackson Dart right away. Now, they had the same plan when he was in Buffalo with Josh Allen. Then Josh Allen comes in the game where they're getting blown out, plays well, and the rest is history. So I don't believe Jackson Dart will start the season. I hear what you're saying. They do have one of the best defensive lines in football. But they had that last year as well, Kyle. And it didn't matter because the offense was abysmal. I have issues with their offensive line. Like, is anybody going to stay healthy first and foremost? Can they gel? Can they protect whoever's playing quarterback, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Jameis Winston, whether it's Jackson Dart, whether it's Tommy Cutlets? We don't know who's going to start at quarterback. But there's real issues in that offensive line. Again, they do have one of the best defensive lines that can get after you. Dexter Lawrence is probably the best D tackle in football. But until you can have an offense that can take some pressure off the defense, it's going to be a long day for New York. I have them going 4-13.
With a 7-game losing streak from week 6
Those first 12 weeks are a gauntlet.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first 12.
Toughest schedule
Like, that's like a
Which
small
may lead to a
portion.
Jackson Dart-led team. Take you to the promised land.
You're
bud.
right. You're right.
He's got a big old
lot of
diamond
growing pains.
There's a lot of stuff about Jackson Dart that I usually would be like, yeah, I don't like that about a quarterback, but it's 2025.
Yeah.
Times are changing. Like, get that young guy in there.
I love his swag.
Tell him to run the football, get some first
Been
downs.
hanging out with Pete Briscoe a lot.
Dude, does he like him like I do?
I don't know.
No,
but
he was mad they traded in the first round to get him.
Okay, well, I got to call
He wants to see those rookies play.
Pete Briscoe nowhere to be found, but we do have Mackenzie Brooks standing by from Sportsline to dive into the numbers a little bit more, Kenz.
Yeah, I'm pretty in line with a lot of you. I've been biting my tongue, though, on some few things over here while I waited for you guys to finish up. But to no surprise, we do like the Eagles the best in this division. We have them around 11 wins here, just like odds makers do. Our win totals are pretty in line with odds makers across the board. Why we have so much value on the Eagles to win the division at 68% has a lot less to do with them and a lot to do with the Commanders. You guys were talking about it, right? We saw that with C.J. Stroud and Houston. It was never C.J. Stroud getting worse after his rookie year. The schedule got harder. He had a great, easy schedule his rookie year. We saw the same thing with Washington. Their average opponent was a 7-win team. Now their average opponent is a playoff team, closer to a 10-win team. So yes, you're going to have a 70% pass completion when you're playing defenses that allow 70%, right? So the situation is, this is going to be a tough schedule. I think the world of Jaden Daniels I have for years. But again, when your schedule gets tougher, it's just harder to win. So that's why we have them at that 24%. As far as the Giants down here at around 5 wins, look, you know, you get Abdul Carter, you obviously help your defense. But the defense, like you guys mentioned, was never really the problem. So you're filling a shallow hole here with a lot of other holes going on. As far as the Cowboys, we have them around 8 wins. I'd call that their floor right now because you could see George Pickens, you know, really start to play at a higher ceiling, potentially. And you also potentially could have a better running back room by the time the season starts if you see some trades or other things going on. So I call this the Cowboys floor with some potential of thunder and lightning running back room. I'm not here to technically say that, but it's definitely going to be the Eagles for us. Odds makers have them around -145 to win the division. That implies around a 59% chance. We give them a 68% chance. So technically right now that -145 is pretty good value.
All right, good value on the Eagles. And if you're Kyle Long, it's great value on the Cowboys under.
Come on.
He has winning just 5 games this season. Sportsline numbers don't change your mind at all.
Oil money, okay?
Kyle Leger, thanks. As we look at the NFC East schedules, we're going to go division by division for the next few days here on HQ. Many more picks from our Sportsline experts on the Early Edge podcast. Scan that QR code. It'll take you there. You can listen to it wherever you find your audio podcast. You can also watch it on the Sportsline YouTube page.